can do in friendships is to be a good communicator. And there's this book, I love referring back to that book because it's not as amazing as the Bible, right? But the 4 agreements, what I love about that book, and you know, we talked about book lists before. What I love about that book is that the premise, or I guess the whole idea of the book, is that there's these 4 agreements, right? And it talks about always doing your best, never take things personal. Always doing your best is this idea that, like, you're never going to be perfect. No one's perfect. But every day, every situation, every encounter, you show up in the best that you can at that moment, right? And so that means that, you know, if your friend, because, right, I asked you, you know, how could you be a good friend for someone in their time of need? If your friend is going through something and, you know, like how I recognize in myself, I don't know that I could be that for that person. Just saying that. Right? Yeah. I think that could make the world of a difference. And I realized in a period of time really spoke to the idea of people are here for seasons. People are here for, you know, maybe a lifetime, whatever it is. But she was there for that specific season. And even though that relationship is no more, I truly cherish that time that she was there for me, because she really carried me in that season. And it was interesting because in that time is when the relationship was starting to blossom between me and my husband. And I remember him saying, you know, it's so hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that you guys were only friends of a certain amount of time. Because he said the way you guys gelled so much in that season, I would have thought you guys knew each other since childhood. And at that time we were like 3 years in, and we only just became close within that year. So it was interesting. But I have to say that when you think about the 4 agreements and you know, showing up as you know, the best way you can be, it's doing that. It's knowing that, you know, we all have different phases in our life, we're always evolving. And so if all you can do, if you can only say, this is what I'm going through, but I'm here, you know, I may not be able to give advice, but I can listen. You know, I may not be able to do whatever it is. That goes a long way. And
and I also feel like we always feel like we gotta have all the answers to fix certain things. And I think that's why we don't come forward to communicate, because deep down inside is an ego thing, and we feel like we're inadequate, or we can't help this person, so we just kind of like ignore it or avoid it somehow, some way, when it's really like, listen, I don't know, you know, how to help you in this situation. You're grieving, whatever this is, but I'm here. However I could help, we can talk about it. But I don't know, but I just want you to know I'm here. And I think our friends would appreciate that more than anything, is somebody at least making themselves available, instead of like completely shutting down the conversation and avoiding it altogether and cutting the lines of communication and just not being there. And there's a lot of that going on, where we'll watch from afar. We're shocked as well, as, you know, you're going through this thing. We're shocked because we're like, it couldn't have been me. Like, I don't know what I would do. You know, so we don't know how to respond. So
that is so true. So within recent years, I had some people, some that were acquaintances at the time, some that were longtime friends, but it's almost like full circle moment in the last few years, where people have just now confided where they were mentally back then. Mind you, this is something that was happening to me. So I was only seeing me. And I love that you say, you know, give people grace, because I remember feeling like, well, this person had reached out to me, or they reached out to me this kind of way, and I felt offended, and I felt, and let me tell you something about the spirit of offense. Because
it's gonna come.
It's gonna mess with your mental health.
It is.
That's why you know, that book, you know, and the 2 agreements that I remember, you know, always do your best and never take things personally, is so key, because taking things personally will just rock. It'll turn your world upside down. If you make everything about yourself, you're going to be in a world of trouble, you know, because we don't know why that person didn't call back. We don't know why that person left you on red. Me as a mother, okay, just today alone, I reached out to 2 people and I was like apologizing because I started messages that I didn't finish, and it was like when I went back, now it's been a few days, and I went back to like message this person, I'm like, oh snap, I never responded back to them. And it's like, okay, but as the roles that I, you know, the different hats that I'm wearing right now, I may not have the time to give you all that attention. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to be a good friend, but I just, you know, and I also, your girl have ADHD tendencies.
Yeah,
so sometimes it's hard to focus, you know? So I think, you know, it's easier, it's becoming easier for me now to give people grace because now I'm on the other side of things. I can see like, wow, look at how long it took. Sometimes you won't get a response back from someone a week, a month. It takes years sometimes for people to even feel comfortable with themselves and even with you to share whatever they've been going through. But yeah, I had a friend that was like, hey, you know what happened back then? I just want to say this is where I was mentally. And I'm like, wow. The fact that you even, I thank them when they say that. Because I'm like, the fact that you even felt the need to share that with me, even though it's been so long. Thank you for feeling the need to share and for trusting me with that information because you could have just kept it to yourself. So I just want to say, like, I think even though I'm not the friendship expert, I feel like just in my own experience, you know, the grace should be extended as you, the person going through whatever it is, the crisis, the situation, and the other person, you know, vice versa. Grace should be, it should be a two-way street. And then it helps you mentally and it helps the relationship, the friendship.
Yeah, and what I would add to that too, we need to also practice focusing on the positivity and the positive relations that we do have and the positive responses. One of the things that really helped me as a friend is being able to gauge who was there and thanking those people for being there, but not focusing on who was not.
Okay.
Because at any given moment, like I told you, the people who are not there in this season might be able to be there for you in another season because they have the capacity for it. And one of the things, like you said, and one of the agreements is to do what you can, right? And the doing what you can doesn't necessarily give you the timing or when that's going to happen. But do what you can when you can is what I would say, right? And one of the things that none of my friends, and this is what I live by, none of my friends can say that Sam wasn't there when I reached out to her, knowing she had the capacity to help me with a particular situation. You get what I'm saying? Now, I may not have it, but the friends that know me and know that I have the capacity to do something, I've always made sure I was there. I may not call you every single day. I may not initiate a conversation every single day. I may not be that person. But in the wake of an emergency, I will be there if I can. And that is more important than anything, I think, because you're giving this person a peace of mind. It's kind of like insurance, right? It's kind of like I'm investing in this relationship, in this friendship, and you may not be giving me gifts every season. You may not be calling me every day. We may not text every day, but I know that our connection is so solid and I can depend on you that even if I call you next year, you're going to pick up
Where we left off, right?
You're going to pick up where we left off. You're going to pick up the phone. You're going to be there for me. And that's the type of equity in relationships that I try to build. And I try to be there for people like that as well. Like, you call me, you hit me up. Yeah, of course Sam's going to do it. Let me hit her up. Like, that's how, honestly, and I don't even want to make this a wealth situation, but that's how rich people keep their peace and have the best friendships, because they build relationships with people that they know can be there, but not be there all the time. You get what I'm saying?
It's the low maintenance relationship.
Yeah,
the low maintenance,
but you gonna maintain it when it's time and I need you. You know, and of course, common conversation is good every other day. But let's be honest, life has moving parts, and we gotta keep it moving. So yeah.
I always refer back to social media. It just shows you how much I'm on it. But it was talking about like how this generation is the friends from this generations are the ones that will do you dirty and be like, I love you though. Oh. And I was like, man, I don't know why, but I feel when I saw that it just brought me to like reality TV and how like everybody's pretending to be friends, but they're like really frenemies. I really want to talk about frenemies actually.
Yeah, we talk about it right now. Let's talk.
Yes, I love that. Now, this part of the show, I really want to talk about frenemies. We did talk about Mean Girls, and I think Mean Girls is a little bit different from frenemies. In a sense, because Mean Girls is like, they're not allowing you in the circle. So you're not friends.
They draw the line from the beginning.
Right. You're not friends at all. Right? But frenemies is a little different. Frenemies are people that are actually in your circle, maybe varying degrees, right? Different levels of friendship. I think a lot of times, an easy way to understand frenemies can be even family, right? Because these are people that kind of almost have to be around you. Co-workers kind of fit in that too. They almost have to be around you, but you don't necessarily like them, or they don't necessarily like you, but they may like you a little bit. But then there's a dash of envy, a dash of jealousy. What can you say about frenemies?
Oh my gosh. So it's a real thing, and it does exist, and we do find ourselves around people that they say they love us, or they love certain things about us to our face, but then behind our backs, it seems sometimes that it's the complete opposite. But there is a scientific explanation for that, and it's really about the reflection and what a friendship brings out of a person. So when you meet someone, originally you see all the great qualities about them. It's attractive. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's attractive when I see someone that's always happy, or you have amazing style. I love how you dress. I love your laugh. I love how you speak. I love how you carry yourself. So immediately you're like, girl, let's be friends. I absolutely love what I'm seeing. But then as you start to become friends with this person, you find yourself in a place where you're seeing so many differences and so many things about that person that you don't have. So your own inadequacies and insufficiencies, because you're making it personal. We talked about that earlier in the episode. Like, you're making this a personal experience, which is technically that might happen because you got to learn about yourself, and you're realizing, okay, well, she's always doing this. I'm not that good at that, or I may not look like that, or my hair isn't done like that, or I don't have the ability to create like she does. So you're looking at this person from the place of insecurities as opposed to being inspired. And so you become a frenemy by default, because you're not using what you see and the sharpening in the friendship as inspiration. You're using it now like, okay, this person's cutting me deep down, and now I'm frustrated, kind of. And friendship is always going to put a mirror in front of you. It's a tough conversation, but when someone comes into your life and you actually see that they're that girl for real, it's gonna make you think about yourself. Like, wait a minute, like,
how am I not measuring up?
Yeah, I need to. You're either inspired or you're gonna be insecure, and that is the test that friendship comes with. So frenemies are people who tend to be on the failing side of building friendship. You're failing really bad if you find yourself laughing in somebody's face, but behind their back you feel piss poor about them because they have things that you don't. But instead of you finding inspiration in that, you decided to go the frenemy route. And it's not personal. And I think once we realize and understand that there are going to be frenemies, it just confirms who we are and what we bring to the table as friends. Like, when I find out somebody was, that happened to me before, girl, literally, sharing the same bed, you know what I'm saying, in a hotel, traveling with me, went behind my back and spoke, well, why is everybody doing this, and trying to do a whole investigation. And I'm like, okay, I get it. You're insecure. It's hard for you to believe that I'm a good person. I don't know how else to explain that to you, but it's a learned lesson. I forgave her. She learned something from that experience, but that's the frenemy route because you are facing yourself. You're facing your own enemy. Frenemies face their own enemies through the friendship.
You really hit me with the scientific, right? Because I was like, okay, we're talking about mental health and everything too. So it's not just a behavioral, even behavior. I mean, if you really want to dissect it, I mean, from what you're saying, we could really study this whole thing. This is a, it's a science. It's a science behind it, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think everything. Just remembering the do not take it personal.
Oh my gosh.
Will help so much, but it's like when you're in it, it's so hard to pull yourself out of it to like, kind of act like that third person. And that's why other friends, right? Like how you talk about the acquaintances, the different level of friends are good too, because then you can, almost like with a therapist, you can have an unbiased opinion about certain things. I remember I had a fallout with someone. And luckily, because I was, I relied on a third party. I relied on someone else. That was a friend. I didn't share the name. I didn't share whatever to give me an unbiased opinion. And it was really helpful. But it was a frenemy situation. And it's interesting because, when you have like a breakdown of friendship, you kind of go through, okay, well, where did I go wrong? Where did things fall off? And so you kind of like do an inventory of the friendship, and you look at every interaction and where things were kind of like iffy, but you kind of wrote it off, and this and that. And I remember, because you talked about like, okay, well, this person might have a strength that you don't have.
Right.
I remember identifying a particular strength that this person had, and I said, oh man, you're really good at this. And I said, you know what, let me not keep it to myself, because I think we talk a lot about, we see a lot it's kind of popular in the culture right now about giving people their flowers.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, you know what? I noticed this thing, and I noticed that it's something that I was lacking, and I said, you know what? Let me mention that to her. And I said, you're really good at events, and I am not. When it comes to planning, that's just not my ministry. It's not my forte. And I called her in to like help me.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I didn't even have to do that. Once I complimented her on it, she actually volunteered to help me. She was like, you know what? If ever you're doing something, let me know, and I'll reach out. And so, and I thought that was an amazing thing. And when it was my turn, and there was something else, she complimented me and reached out to me in the same way too. But I bring this up because this person, at least at this point, I feel has become a friend of me, and it's kind of disheartening. It's kind of disappointing. And I feel like a mistake that I made, and you can tell me if I did, was that when there were times, and although we have to choose our battles, when there were times that there were things that were a little off, I was like, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. Maybe I'm taking it too personal. Let me not say anything. I feel like that was probably the mistake that I made, is choosing not to speak up. Or when things kind of blew up, choosing not to say, well, while you are upset about this, let me just bring up XYZ. Do you think that's a good practice to have? Or like, do you think that as situations come up, it sounds like it. Now I'm thinking, looking back, I think I can actually answer that for myself. It sounds like I should have said something right then in the moment, right? Because if you don't address it, then it's going to grow and fester and become something else.
Yeah, I would never advise bringing up your issues with someone when they bring up an issue with you. Okay. That can happen if you guys schedule to say, okay, hey, let's have a powwow and let's talk about everything. Now, if you establish that in the beginning of the conversation, cool, it might work out. But if someone comes to you with an issue and you're like, well, let me talk about what happened last year or 3 months ago, and let me tell you where you went wrong as a friend, that's not gonna work.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, the blame game, because it blame shifts. Also, it just kind of like changes the whole trajectory of the conversation. They came to you with a case in point, and that needs to be handled first. Now, if you wanna let them know, hey, maybe in the future I would love to also talk about, if you would give me the opportunity, just like I'm giving you the opportunity to talk about things that's, bothering you in the friendship, I would love the opportunity as well. But today, let's focus on what you came to me for.
Respect what they brought to you.
Respecting that. Because you think about it, you go to court trial, you can't come in and start throwing stuff that's not admissible. It's not admissible. Right. It's not, you know what I'm saying? But I want to go back to something that you said that I think is very, very important. And I think this is something that we need to think about when it comes to saying don't take it personal. We really need to understand what that means. Because not taking it personal doesn't mean that you're going to ignore what just happened. It doesn't mean that, they're not talking about you. That's not what that means. Not taking it personal means that this person's intention and how they're acting is not specifically to hurt or harm you. However, it is still personal. It's still personal because you're going to look at it from a personal perspective. Okay. But you're not going to feel like you're being attacked.
Okay.
There's a difference there. Because
it's in how you receive it.
Yes. Like think about, and I do, like when I do consulting and I'm talking about these work environments, make it friendly. I'm going to bring up an issue in the board meeting that could very well be Susie, Karen, and all the other people doing this issue. But I'm not going to point out Susie, Karen, and all of them. I'm going to tell you guys the issue and tell you what it's doing to the company and how we need to change it. It wasn't a personal attack. You're not taking it personal, but you're realizing from a personal perspective that I need to change this. I have this thing that I do with my friends that I absolutely love, especially my closer friends, the people that I probably expect more from, where I'll ask them, hey, especially at the end of the year, and I'm due to do that now, but try to do it either twice a year or 3 times a year, depending on how I'm feeling and how the friendship's going, is to say, hey, have I been a good friend to you this year? And if I haven't, what are some improvements that you think I could make to improve our friendship and how things are? And sometimes it's like, oh girl, you're doing, we're fine, like you're doing amazing, I love you, whatever. And then sometimes it's like, well, I would like this, but I know it's only because of this that this is not happening. So, but it brings awareness to what my friends want. And it's like the same way that a therapist would say, or like in marriage counseling, they'll say, well, sit down with your spouse and have those quarterly meetings where you talk to them about what they want, what they need, where they're at, how you feeling, those check-ins. We got to do those check-ins with our friends. We got to ask them, hey, am I meeting the bar as a friend, at least for where the level of this friendship is, whether it's at work, hey, you need any help with any projects? Am I helping you as much as I can as a supervisor, a leader, or even just a coworker, as your work friend? Or hey, you're my best friend. Is there anything that I can support you with in this season that you don't think I've supported you in? Because we like to walk away thinking we got it all figured out and we're the best and creme de la creme in everything we do, and we showing up, whether it's with money and we think that money's enough to cure the problem, whether it's with our time, but that may not be what our friends are wanting. Some people just want to sit down and listen. Some people do want you to show up. Some people do need financial help. Some people do need, support, mental encouragement, all of that stuff. But we won't know what that is and what that love language is in that season. I feel like we always talk about my love language, but it's every season. My love language changes every season. This season I need this season I need that. The next season I'm gonna need something
on whatever you're going.
But are you willing to dive into learning your friends that way and be vulnerable enough to hear them tell you, no, you haven't shown up in this area?